Hi, today I have a message called Opening Up. Here's the short version. As much as things seem to be falling apart, they're also opening up. Becoming aware that you don't know what to do is a tremendous opening. By doing thought work, you surrender the limiting perception that protects separate identity. Through your willingness to see the shared identity of all, you surrender the fear surfaces you have projected upon them. If you were in the presence of one who made great paper airplanes, you would either let them make your planes for you or learn from them how to make planes. Okay, so back to as much as things seem to be falling apart, they're also opening up. So if I find myself in judgment of something in the world or something in my personal experience, and I'm thinking, this means things are falling apart, some perception of mine, I can be reminded that as things seem to break apart, I could look at it as an opening up. It's always a chance to become aware of how I feel. It's always a chance to become aware of the thought I believe. It's always a chance to set the thought aside and to focus on what is real, and there are never any exceptions to that. So anything perceived is always a reason to focus back on the very simple work we have in front of us, and every time we focus on it, it benefits us, and every time we focus on it, it benefits all. So in that sense, there's no problem, there's only solution. If I believe I see a problem, the solution is right here in front of me. So as much as things seem to be falling apart, they're also opening up. The falling apart is an appearance. It can't be real. Ego wants us to take things very seriously and make them real. But when we use our effort to be vigilant about how we feel and to look toward what is real, when we have been looking toward what is unreal and trying to make it real and feeling distress as a result, when we look toward what is real and remember what is real, it always helps all of us. It helps who we perceive to be ourselves. It helps who we perceive to be others, and that there is a heart opening, there's an opening up. And the way I experience it is, the more I work on this, the more I am willing to allow Spirit to get in there and determine the fine, small details of what I experience. It's not coming quite so much from the egoic thoughts I believe. It's coming more from the thoughts that Spirit would give me. Yes, I don't know how this applies, but it just came to mind, so I'll share it. Okay, yesterday I got, I think, although maybe I've just forgotten, my first angry face on Facebook. I made a comment and somebody responded with an angry face. And it just occurred to me just now, like, when I saw the face, I was kind of interested, like, oh, I've never seen that face before. That's, look at that. And then I was told how to respond, and I responded that way. It was very, very simple. It wasn't complicated at all. And it just hit me just now, like, oh, usually the idea of somebody being angry with me, I'd invent a whole story and invent an idea of why that's distressing, and believe that the anger is true and the separate self feeling the anger is the real thing. And it just hit me just now, like, that was a very simple, easy experience to have, and there wasn't drama in it. It was simple because the simplicity of the Holy Spirit is here guiding me. I'll say simply a lot. I feel like maybe that's the theme of this. Guiding me very simply and directly, just saying, hey, do this, and then you move on to the next thing. So at the same time, then there's nothing blocking my seeing that being as whole, as holy, as loved, as loving, as worthy of all blessing. I guess I could go on, but as innocent, as strong, in our shared strength and our shared power. There's so much good news to see about everybody, and any little detail I had planted in my experience due to my belief in ego thought, can't stop me from remembering what that spirit, that being really is, what that being really has, and how that being's really blessed, and how that being has the ability to bless. That becomes more and more obvious, and it outshines anything in my script that the ego has placed there, so I don't need to react to it or give it meaning. Okay. Becoming aware that you don't know what to do is a tremendous opening. So when I understand that the ego thoughts that tell me this is how you do this is how you handle this is how you don't handle this, don't mean anything, and that I don't actually know what is going on, so I can't analyze it and I can't judge it, and I don't know what I'm doing, that creates a vast open space for Spirit to get in there and reach me and give me any specific instructions that I need. So not knowing is a huge opening. It's a huge invitation to Spirit. It's also a huge invitation to see Spirit working in and through the ones I call other. Because if I don't know anything about what limits them, limits are fictional, or if I'm not recalling a past seeming to limit their present, then anything's possible with them. They can show up in any way at all. And the importance of not limiting the one I perceive to be other has been brought to my attention more and more. So becoming aware that you don't know what to do is a tremendous opening. Yeah, Spirit's right here for everybody, and the guidance of Spirit is very clear and very direct and very simple. And the more work I do on acknowledging ego thoughts, intentionally setting them down, intentionally focusing upon what is real, the more the guidance of Spirit is just very simple, very direct, very calm, very easy to carry out. Okay, I think I already talked about this next one, but let's see if there's anything else to say. By doing thought work, you surrender the limiting perception that protects separate identity. And this is a lovely thing. It's like slipping out of something that was too tight, and finally letting what you are unfurl and extend. And it's a wonderful feeling. So vigilance about how I feel is important and beneficial. And when I take the time to stop when I'm not feeling good, to find the ego thought I believed, and sometimes I really have to work with myself because I don't want to find it. But I've learned from experience that if I do find just one, because I could be believing 20,000, but just one's enough. Just one ego thought I believe about somebody. Maybe I think somebody's stiff and rigid. And really, the stiff and rigid thing is the limiting sense of identity I've imposed both on myself and upon that other. And by doing the thought work and letting go of the thought and focusing toward what is real, today I'm focusing toward I have no neutral thoughts. And that can be a little freaky. The ego gets very reactive to that. And then I can loop back and do my thought work again, like seeing that I have no neutral thoughts is upsetting. So what's the thought attached to the upset? This world is a frickin' mess and I made it. And so I set that thought down. Let's not get misled. And then let's focus back toward, if I have no neutral thoughts, if all the thoughts ego gives me are based on opposites and are insane and meaningless and valueless, there have to be thoughts here that guide me very simply and directly, and there are. And then they have a chance to get to me. So every time I find a thought, which if you're like me, then sometimes you have to be patient to, so I'm trying to describe this, to really stop and really find one specific thought you believe. That seems to take the most time. It's become a very quick process for me because I practice it a lot, but sometimes I've noticed now there are certain areas where I won't do this work. And now, as I go through the layers, I'll realize, wow, in this area I rarely did the thought work. I did it in all these other areas, and I was completely missing that. I almost never did it in this one area. And now here we are, and let me do it. So when I go in to do it in an area that I had ignored before, there's a little bit of struggle getting to that first thought. Like, it's okay to find out a thought you believe. It's okay to set the thought down. Okay, let's see. By doing thought work, you surrender the limiting perception that protects separate identity. So there's the result. By finding the thoughts we believe and we don't feel good, there's the result. When we look at the other, it's much, much easier to remember that they are a holy being. And they are an innocent being. And it's much, much easier to remember that there's no difference between pick a public figure who would cause some controversy and then pick a person who seems to figure in your day-to-day life. Those two share the same holiness. Those two share the same innocence forever. And if they share that holiness and innocence, then they share it with you. Beings, it becomes much easier to see beings and much easier to see what I projected out there with ego thought in the form of characters that seem to have opposite qualities. Maybe one character looks good and another looks bad. Maybe one character looks intelligent and another character looks unintelligent. That is meaningless and valueless. And I can't make any sense of it. And if I try to formulate a response to someone based on believing that they truly represent these opposites, like I could be talking to a good character and that good character is fighting against a bad character, that's the fiction I've imposed upon both beings. And then I've limited them and myself. So if I can let this, it always looks like a grid that I've let fall around us, and each one of us is trapped in our little box in the grid. If I can let this grid be lifted up, and then I can see we're just holy and innocent beings, loved and loving, and there can't be any exceptions to that, then I feel much more sane. I feel much more at home, and the guidance of spirit is much more available to me. So we learn to prefer one over the other. One feels much better than the other. Okay. Through your willingness to see the shared identity of all, you surrender the fear surfaces you have projected upon them. And we don't have to fake it. We don't have to walk through life saying, I see the shared identity of all, so I'm happy. No, I mean, our feelings don't lie to us. When we feel crappy, we feel crappy, and that can't be denied. So thank goodness our feelings are loud. Once we start to pay attention, they're very disturbing and very loud. like being with a child, a very young child. The very young child makes it known when they're displeased, and our feelings will tell us when we're leaning on the ego for an interpretation. That's what makes them very useful. They're the perfect alarm clock for doing thought work. So it's every single day I encounter difficult feelings, and I wouldn't present myself as like, hey, I'm healed and whole, and I never experience terrible feelings. And no, I experience terrible feelings every single day. It's just that I have learned how to respond to them, and I'm finding such relief and freedom in responding to feelings appropriately. Such healing, such help, such a happier outlook on everything, just because I was willing to find a thought and set it down and look towards something real. It's a repetitive, simple process. Anyone can do it. Anyone can do it. We do not have to be fall on the side of ego set of opposites and say, I'm an intelligent one versus an unintelligent one, to be able to do this sort of work. Not at all. Anyone can do it. And so we do not have to be restricted by ego's perception of opposites at all, ever. When we look at ourselves, when we look at anything, when we look at anyone, love has no opposites, and it's underneath all of that, and we can learn to depend fully on that love. And today, when I don't feel good, I'm not depending on it like a crazy person. So I know that's crazy to not depend on love, and that's why I reset and reorient. Okay. I don't know if there's anything else here. Let's see. Through your willingness to see the shared identity of all, you surrender the fear surfaces you have projected upon them. Yeah, so two things. Or is that the newer statement? I don't even know. Okay, let's just go with this one. I can't remember what I've said, what I haven't said. But the two things that stand out to me here are willingness and fear surfaces you have projected upon them. So a little willingness carries me through anything. If I know I'm wrong, if I don't feel good, I'm wrong about something. I believed a thought from ego, and that thought's a lie. So I definitely need help. Well, in order to get the help I need, all I need is a little willingness. All I need to see is that I have been wrong, but there's something here that will help me. My being isn't wrong. No one's being is wrong. So this doesn't give me license to walk around saying, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. No, it's just in knowing that the thoughts of egos are lies, and in that sense I'm wrong when I believe them, I can open up to the help that's here. And then the other thing that stood out is the fear surfaces you have projected upon them. Like it or not, when I don't feel good and I'm thinking of someone in relation to that not good feeling, I have projected a fear surface upon that one. And it's time now, and it's safe, and it's okay to see that one as the being they are. At least during this stage of my learning, I have to distinguish between the person and the being. They are a being, they're a being forever, or their spirit forever. I'm perceiving a person. And when I project a fear surface upon them, I'm not allowing the light of their being to shine through the person. That's up to me to see. So I can always focus toward what is true about all beings: holiness, innocence, strength, power shared, all the beautiful things. Beauty, that's true about any being. It's not a visual thing. So that's my work to do, to refocus past the fear surface I myself have projected upon them to what is there behind what I projected upon them. And in admitting that I tussle or struggle with my projections, and that's the only thing I can struggle with is my own projections, I'm not putting myself at fault. I'm just acknowledging that I've been wrong, I've been mistaken, and I need correction. I need correction in my perception. I need help. So it's not beating up upon myself, because myself is the same as that innocent being I see over there. That innocent, strong, powerful, beautiful being I see behind what I've projected in the form of a person. I'm that too. So there's no reason to beat up on myself. But when I've been in crazy land, seeing crazy things, I do need help, and there's a way to access that help. Okay, so through your willingness to see the shared identity of all, you surrender the fear surfaces you have projected upon them. And it comes down to, do I want to be helped? Do I want to notice how I feel? If I'm going to attempt to correct someone, I'm going to ignore how I feel. I have to ignore how I feel if I'm going to attempt to correct someone. There's an off feeling in me, and I feel I have to put something right, so I try to do it by correcting someone. But if I notice that off feeling in me, and I address the thought, I think, they're doing it wrong, they've got it wrong, it needs to be fixed, it needs to be right. If I have the time to do that, I might not always experience it that way. Then it's very interesting to see when I drop that thought, they're doing it wrong. And then I can come into the awareness, Ego gives me no neutral thoughts. They're always based on a set of nonsensical opposites. But Spirit's here for me. Then I get to see what comes into that space. So I get to drop all the assumptions ego would give me about what needs to happen, what things need to look like, how things need to unfold. These messages I speak as I'm given to speak. And the messages are always for me. So I go back and re-listen to them. So the very things I'm saying right now are things that represent a deepening in my own learning and unlearning. And as funny as it sounds, I will go back and listen because it's for me. But because it's recorded, it also seems to be, in my perception, something I can share. So I do that too. I don't expect a lot of people to, I guess I shouldn't expect any particular number of people to hear it or appreciate it or use it, but it's there. It's there if it resonates for someone. I don't know why I felt important to say that, but there you go. Okay. If you were in the presence of one who made great paper airplanes, you would either let them make your planes for you or learn from them how to make planes. So I've noticed this about my communication. I don't know what to say, or in the action, I don't know what to do. So I am in the presence of one who makes great paper airplanes, and for some reason, being in a room with others throwing paper airplanes back and forth was the metaphor used for speaking, or what we view as communicating. I think communicating is so much deeper than that, but let's just talk about speaking. And thinking. Thinking is communicating. But yeah, I think I'm supposed to focus on speaking. So yeah, we're in the presence of one who's a great paper airplane maker. And that would be, if you have the Christianity lens or the A Course in Miracles lens, it would be Jesus. But it could be some other non-physical helper, or it could just be the idea of spirit. Whoever it is, whatever the form is that your help is present in, maybe you would just call it inspiration. Whatever the form your help takes, it's always here for you. It never goes away. In my case, more and more, it is Jesus, and Jesus is the great maker of paper airplanes. So I don't know what to say when I'm having a conversation, but I can be told. And that's my experience, that I hear what I should say. Either I hear what I should say and I repeat it, and that's exactly what's happening here, or I just pausing to let the words come to me. That's funny. Here's an example of it right now. Or the words just flow through me. So in the first example, when I was telling you I hear what I should say first and then I say it, it was actually the words flowing through me. In this example just now, where I had to pause to hear what I was supposed to say, it was like you hear what you're supposed to say, then you say it. And I want to deconstruct the idea of channeling, because in my experience, I'm always channeling. I'm either channeling ego or channeling spirit. So in this context of sharing, I'm separating this thing out and calling it a message, big deal. I'm always channeling. The intention here in this context is to allow everything I'm saying, including the personal examples, to be coming from spirit and to be prompted by spirit as a way of being helpful, both to myself when I re-listen and I allow the learning and unlearning to deepen, and to anyone else who might resonate. What else did I want to say about that? If you are in the presence of one who made great paper airplanes, so however your spiritual help is there for you, you would either let them make your planes for you or learn from them how to make planes. So if I'm letting Jesus make my planes for me, letting Jesus speak for me, understanding we're one, and there's no difference between us, and there's no difference between Jesus or the Christ in him or the oneness in him, and of course he's genderless and we're all genderless. him is just thrown out there. And there's no difference between him and anyone else. And he says in A Course in Miracles, you will see me, you will hear me through everyone you call else. Not in those words, but that's a general concept that's floating up. And I hope I'm right about that. I'm pretty sure it's in there. And so there's this flow state where you can just be tuned in to what should be said, and it flows. And then there's also the state where you're aware of ego interference and you pause because you don't want to speak from that place, and you listen, and then you hear it, and then you say it. So then there's more of a concept of a separate me in that, and I kind of go back and forth between those two, and sometimes I have to pause and be like, whoa, something's in here that's not that's not helpful. I need to let it recede like a tide, and let the spirit tide come in and speak from that place. And we're all learning and unlearning this together. We're all learning how to allow that flow of spirit to come through everyone and everything we see, because we have not placed this grid of judgment and limitation upon it. We have not decided when we meet someone, I'm not there yet, but I'm working on it. When we meet someone, I know who you are, and I know what your tendencies are, and my defenses are in place to deal with you, because I know who you are, and I know what your deficiencies are, and I know how you could hurt or limit me, so my defenses are in place to deal with you. This is what's being chipped away. When we lift this grid up, we don't know who they are in the personality deficiency sense. We don't know that at all, but we do know them as spirit. We know they're innocent, we know they're strong, we know they share power with us, we know they're holy, we know they're loved, we know they're loving, we know they're blessed, we know they have the ability to bless, the power to bless, always. We know they're a miracle. We know that about all beings. And so, as we let this come into the foreground, and let our idea of what their limiting personality was fade and recede into the background, everything becomes much easier. Okay, hope this was helpful, and happy healing.